What's up, guys? Ryan here. Just thought I would do a quick little update and also uh, answer a question I got over my Facebook Messenger. Thought I'd answer that. But the quick little update, got some new lug nut covers, as the people on my Instagram have already seen them. And I also put lug nut covers on the backs, all of them. Right now, the state of the truck is I have one burnout light. That light right there is burnout. Not too hard to tell it's burnout when you go and look at it. You can see it's all black in there. And besides the fact that it won't light up. And I tried a different light, didn't work. What's up, Andrew? I got some of those covers for those air glad hands, because when you're doing asphalt and concrete, stuff gets in there. Let's see, any other things I can update you on real quick? I think that's pretty much about it. Oh, one more thing. I got some lights for right there. I haven't wired them yet, but they're sitting there. So we'll get those. Yeah, that's pretty much it for right now on updates for the truck. I wanted to basically, what's up, Luis? Basically, I wanted to do a video explaining a little bit about the decision I made with this truck and why I ended up buying this truck, and you know how what to look for kind of when you're buying your truck. Basically, you get what you pay for. I mean, that's the you know, there are a few exceptions. Sometimes people try to rip you off, and sometimes you get really good deals. But for the most part, you get what you pay for. You know. And that light is just, there we go. If I could just cover that, that'd be perfect. So I got a little notepad with some stuff on it I'd like to talk about. If I can find the page I wrote on. Hi, here it is. Okay, so with my truck, I found it on Craigslist. I was on Craigslist looking at trucks. I want to say my process in buying a truck was a little, I wouldn't do it the way I did it if I were you, because I was kind of, you know, emotional. It was more of an emotional purchase than a you know, I didn't really think it out too much, you know. And it's been awesome, but only because I've had a good attitude about it. So I was looking on Craigslist, and you know, you guys know me and my wife, we do not go into debt. We are against debt. So if we didn't have the cash to pay for it, we weren't going to buy it, type of deal. Right? And we had $10,000 saved at that time, and there was two trucks that were in my price range, kind of, per se, that I thought I could be able to buy. There was one in Yakima, and it was just this hideous Freightliner. It was hideous, guys. It was hideous. It was like, it was supposed to be red, but it had faded so much it looked pinkish almost. And it had one of those bathtub type boxes where it's round, and then it has the flat fenders that come back. Not saying those are bad boxes. I just think they don't look, I mean, they're not really sexy. You know, you don't they don't look like a normal. Of course, he's gonna fire up his chainsaw when I'm doing a video. I don't know if you guys can hear. If you can hear, let me know, and I'll go somewhere else. If not, oh my goodness, dude. Yeah. So there was two trucks. The Freightliner, it was super ugly. The guy wanted 16,000 for it. It was. I want to say it was a newer truck than this, but not by much. Maybe 1 or 2 years. And it might have had AC. I can't remember if it did or not. But looking back, I know I never would have bought that truck, but it may have been a better investment per se, because financially speaking, like, I probably would have had to put less money into it to get it on the road versus this truck. However, I love this Peterbilt. It's sexy. It's a very good looking truck. I mean, it didn't really start out great, but I knew it had potential. And so this truck was listed for $10,000. The other truck was $16,000, right? And it was way further, like Yakima. It was like a 3-hour drive or something like that. And I, talked with my wife, and I convinced her, said, "Hey, honey, I had started thinking about buying a dump truck earlier, and I had mentioned it to her a few times. And my buddy said, well, why don't you just buy a junk truck and fix it up while you're working, And I decided, okay, I'll do that. And then and it's a good thing I did, because it gave me the work ethic I would need while running my business. Because I had to be working on the thing as soon as I got home from work. And as you're running a business, if you do run a business, you'll know it never stops. That's the way running a business is. As soon as you get done driving, you come home and you work on it. You fix the little things before they escalate. And so I bought this truck. I drove up there. The guy wasn't around. And so I started looking around the truck. I started looking at everything. And realistically, I didn't know what I was looking at. I had been driving truck for 3-4 years. I know what a pre-trip and a post-trip inspection is. Okay. But I was so caught up in the moment, because it was more of an emotional purchase than a knowledgeable purchase. And, I just said, whatever it takes, I'm going to make this happen, So I bought this truck. I never looked at another truck, which I should have. I should have went to an auction or something, that would have been a smart business move. But I made more of an emotional purchase, because as soon as I seen the truck, I kind of fell in love with it. You know what I mean? But $10,000 was not a good price for me. I'm like, it ain't worth $10,000. This thing, I probably shouldn't have paid. Well, I don't know. With all the stress and everything I've went through, looking back right now, I would never buy a truck like this. Looking back. But if I needed experience, then I would buy something like this. And I needed experience, so it's kind of paid for itself in that way. Now, I got some numbers I wrote down that I wanted to kind of discuss with you guys. Other than me doing a pre-trip on the truck, that's all I really did. I, crawled under it, and I really focused on looking at the truck and seeing what was wrong. And I caught probably 75% of what was wrong with the truck. I was able to see it when I first looked at the truck initially. The other 25% was stuff that was kind of hidden, and it didn't pop up until I had gotten to the project further because I didn't have the experience of looking at particular things that, dump trucks have fail on them. Like what gets worn out. And, on a fuel truck, nothing really gets worn out. I mean, they're on the road 100% of the time. They're not off-road. They're not shaking and vibrating and, not like a dump truck is. When you're get loaded with the fuel truck, the suspension just goes down slowly. With the dump truck, you got operators that dump stuff from 20 feet high into the bed, and it's, you're shaking around like, so they take a lot more of abuse, which I didn't really take that into account when I was looking for a dump truck, right? So I checked over the engine. I looked at the engine oil. That's the main thing with the engine. Check the oil. If it's low, is it new oil? I honestly, it kind of makes me worry when I check the oil and it looks like brand new oil, because it's like, oh, they just changed the oil. Why did they change it? You can tell if it has like a blown head gasket, if there's like a milky oil, and so I kind of like to check that stuff without them changing it, so I checked the oil, checked the fluids, and on this truck, it was low on oil, go figure, it leaked a gallon a day, which should have been an indicator, As soon as I fired it up, there was a puddle, this big on the ground. It smoked. I honestly thought when I was buying this, I'm like, I don't know how long the motor's going to last. I had in my plans buying a new motor for this thing. Or having this one rebuilt. In my head, that's what I had kind of planned, because when they first fired it up, it was like, you guys have seen the intro to my first videos. It smoked like no other. Like, it was insane how much it smoked. And it had sat forever. That was part of the reason why it smoked so much. I checked the transmission, wiggled everything, the drive line and all that stuff. Also, one thing, if you have money and you're buying a truck, take the time to go get it cleaned. Like, look at it when it's dirty and then go get it cleaned and re-look at it. Okay? This truck had been so oiled over and so dusted over that you couldn't see half the stuff because it was covered in grime and dust and oil particles, and the grime was, quarter of an inch thick on it. So I'd say, look at it dirty, get it pressure washed or clean, take it to a truck wash. Costs $100 to look at it. Probably worth your investment. Even if you don't buy it. Look at it again. I don't really recommend paying a mechanic to look at it. Because they don't really look at they look at so many trucks. They may notice the normal things out of bounds or, broken on it, but they're just like any other human being. They look at them so much that they'll miss stuff, and yeah. So look at the suspension, the parts that make you the money, like the dump part, does it go up? Is it straight? And I'm going to take you around the truck too to kind of show you what you want to look at. So this is going to be probably a longer video. I'm going to talk about the numbers though while we're in here. So since I bought the truck, not including the purchase price, in repairs, I have spent $17,300. That is not including the $8,000 purchase price since I've started, right? $17,300 on this truck. Then, since I've started driving it, so that was total, since I bought the truck last September. So, since I started driving in May, out of that $17,300, I've only spent $5,786 in repairs, right? And those repairs since I've started, let me just give you a quick breakdown. $4,000 of that was the rear main seal, right? So $1,700 is basically, you know, just small stuff that's happened, right? Nuts and bolts for this and that, new light, just small stuff that come up, air hoses, that type of stuff. Since I've bought this, also another good number that you guys should know, with buying used equipment, you're gonna acquire tools. You're gonna need tools to buy stuff. So since I bought the truck, I've spent $2,500 in tools so far. But that's a little on the small side, because for one, you got to remember, I had a lot of tools before I started. My grandfather is kind of a hoarder, and he had tons of tools, right? So I got a lot of my stuff for free, right? And then the junkie sent me some stuff. So just take all of that into account when I'm telling you these numbers. I had a lot of stuff before I started, so I didn't purchase a lot of tools. So I spent $2,500 since I bought the truck. Since I started in May, in small tools and equipment category in my QuickBooks, I've spent $822. So whether that be, I don't know, like a socket wrench or something, something I've purchased that would be under the category of small tools and equipment, right? And that's what I've spent. Obviously, in that category, I have spent a total of $10,600, but that includes the trailer that I recently purchased and the backhoe. So I deducted those from the numbers. That's where you're getting those numbers from. So those are the kind of the numbers that I wanted to go over you with. And I also wanted to tell you, those numbers are pretty low. Number one, because I don't ever take my truck to a shop unless it's something major. Like, the only time I've ever took my truck to the shop was to have the frame work done and to have the rear main seal done. Everything else I've done myself, right? So that has kept the cost of repairs very, very low. Very low. So, I mean, if you want to take into account, if I was paying myself labor, at the going shop rate of, 110, 115, 120 bucks an hour, some shops are only 90. If you got a buddy, you can get it for 85, 75 sometimes. But if I were to pay a shop to do the stuff that I've done to this, I mean, we'd probably be, 70, 80 grand, probably, I don't know, it's probably astronomical. I'm making up numbers on this, but you guys have seen all the videos that I've done. If you want to go back and add up all the video time, and then add like another, probably 200-300 hours onto that, because a lot of the stuff, the repairs I've done, I haven't done video while I was doing it. So that is a major money saver right there. Work on the equipment yourself. So, yeah. So, okay. So when you go to look for a truck, I would say, do not buy a truck sight unseen. Don't do it. Don't do it. I don't think that's a smart business move. Like, we're talking about money here. If you want to get all emotional and you seen a picture of the truck and you like the picture, you're basically gambling. You're saying, okay, I'm going to pay $50,000 for this picture, because really that's what you're doing. I mean, is that picture worth that much money? I would not buy a truck sight unseen. With my current experience level, I don't think that's a smart business move. People do it all the time, and they make it just fine, but it could be a disaster. Um, so yeah, start the truck up. Obviously, when you get there, hopefully it's cold and he hasn't ran it at all. You know, so you can see what it starts when it's cold. Start it up. You know, listen to it. You know, get familiar with everything, the controls and everything. Like I said, check the oil, check the coolant. So basically just do a pre-trip on it, but like do one that normally when drivers do pre-trips, they take like 5 minutes to do it. Take your time, take 2-3 hours, maybe more. And take your time and look everything over. Yeah, I mean, it's okay to buy trucks sight unseen if you have the money to lose. You know, that's the way. But the guys that are watching this video don't have the money to lose. Half of them are going to go into debt buying their truck, probably, which I do not recommend. And I strongly am against that, because I feel like if you save your money, then you've earned it. If you don't save your money, then you haven't really earned it. You're kind of buying it without earning it. You know what I mean? I don't know if that really explains it to you or not. But yeah, so when you get in the truck, start it up, check your gauges, see which gauges work, you know. So the guy in the Facebook message asked me, how do I check the major components, basically. So for the engine, you know, open the hood when you start it, listen to everything, watch the oil pressure go up, see how long it takes, listen to it, you know, wait for it to warm up, then rev it up a few times, see if you hear anything. I have this little tool that goes in my ears, and I can poke stuff with it, and you can hear the vibrations and stuff. I would recommend buying that $5 tool when you go to check your truck out or a truck out, because you can put it up against stuff and you can listen for bearings going out and all that other type of stuff. It's like $5 for the tool. It just goes in your ears. It's kind of like what a doctor has, except for it has like a long metal stick on it, and you just poke stuff with it and hold it up against it. I took that with me, and you know, probed the whole engine, you know, listened for anything that sounded abnormal, which for me, this whole engine sounded abnormal. I've never heard a 2-stroke diesel before, so you know, it probably didn't really do me any good, but yeah. The transmission, the only way you're going to test that out is if you take it for a drive test. Again, I did an emotional purchase. I didn't even drive the thing before I paid for it. So that kind of tells you how naive or stupid I was when I bought this thing. Like, I just assumed it ran, you know. The guy told me it ran, so I just took that for word, you know. And, you know, so when you're checking the transmission, you know, go through the gears like you would normally go through the gears. The clutch, I can show you this one. Okay, so here's the clutch. So the clutch should have a good 1.5 inch of free play. I don't have a return spring on this thing, so that's why it goes down, right? And then when you're driving, the clutch should disengage, you know, fairly soon. Mine disengages right about there, and then I go down, and then right about there, the clutch brake, you know, starts slowing the tranny down, and then obviously it stops it down there. But when I first bought the thing, the clutch wasn't out of adjustment, but the linkage to the clutch pedal was, right? So I was kind of, you know, kind of jamming it into gears, you know. Not jamming it, like basically you slow it down as much as you can and then just, push it in, But once you get going, then you don't even need the clutch, At least I don't use the clutch. I just, match the RPMs and shift it in. Make sure the splitter works. This one, the splitter, I can split the gears in a gear, but I can't go and then go to the next gear. Something's messed up with it. I've just been living with it ever since I bought it that way, which is a major inconvenience to me. But, that's what you get when you don't drive a truck before you buy it, So, what I would do, if you can, when you go to buy the truck, say, hey, I'm going to work this thing for a day before I buy it. Or a week. Just say, hey, I'll give you $500 right now, down, and I'm going to drive the truck for a week. You may have to put more down than that. But I'm going to drive it for a week. I'm going to work it for a week and see, what I think about it. It's, you got to think of it this way. It's a $50,000 purchase. It's your livelihood. Think about it that way. If the truck ain't running, you ain't making money. You're losing money, and your family's going to starve to death. That's basically the way you need to think about it. If the truck ain't working, you're starving to death. And it may sound extreme, but as a business owner, that's what your mentality has to be. If you're not working, you're starving. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. So, let me start this bad boy up, and then I'll show you some stuff that you want to look for in a dump truck when you buy a dump truck. Since I bought the thing, I have not had a key. That's my key right there. So, does it fire right up? Does it build air pressure? You can see the air pressure gauge going up. You can see the oil pressure. Right? Those are things you want to look for. Well, I mean, if you're probably not going to get the truck for a week, okay? I get that. But, I mean, at least a day. If the guy's serious and he shows somebody cash, and if he says, okay, I'll give you, $2,000-$3,000 right now, let me run it for at least a day, you need to know what the truck handles like when it's loaded and when it's empty and when it's in operation. If the guy can't let you borrow it for a day and you test all that stuff out, go to a pit or something, arrange it with the guy to go to a pit and get loaded and dump it. Because with this particular truck, the hydraulic fluid was too low. He couldn't lift the box all the way up, right? So I couldn't even see how bad the twist was when I bought the truck because it wasn't going up all the way. The higher it goes up, the more it twisted, you know what I mean? So you need to run the truck how it's going to be ran every single day. You need to know. Yeah, okay, that would work. That would work too. Go with the guy and take a load or something, Yeah, no, you're probably right, Keith. You guys are right. But you can go to a gravel pit or something with the guy and say, hey, we got to have this checked out. I mean, I'm not going to take your word for it. It's $50,000 here, that's on the line. So, granted, if the truck doesn't lift up, it's not going to cost you $50,000 to repair it. But you know, it's a waste of time and all that other stuff, you know. So treat it as like a $50,000 deal, you know what I mean? Like, you're giving away $50,000. If the thing doesn't perform, you just lost out a ton of money. Okay, we're building air pressure. Oh yeah, one thing you want to check for, if you're buying an older truck, you know, just make sure it doesn't leak a ton of oil, because that gets expensive. You know, I spent $1,000 on oil in the first 3 months, which is, you know, if you don't have a lot of money and you can't save, that's a lot of money to lose just for oil. You know, when you could be using that for fuel or insurance or something. I'll just, let's see. I got enough air pressure. Probably lift the box up. One thing you want to watch is, does it go up straight? You know, you want to see if it goes up straight. Obviously, you want to sit on level ground. Does the PTO engage good? Does it grind? You know, those are all just little things, you know. Just make sure you're checking all the little things. Does the tailgate open? Does the drop axle function? Does it go up or down? You know, that's a very important thing, the drop axle. Because, you know, if it doesn't work, then you're going to get into serious, you know, tickets and stuff like that. So make sure that works. Oh, quick little update on the drop axle issue that I was having, the death wobble. It appears to be gone, fixed. I changed the shocks to a different brand of shock, and they seem to have more pressure in them. I also switched them around like the junkie said, and it seems to have fixed the problem. So, knock on wood, no problems as of right now. Okay. When you're looking at a hydraulic system, the hoses are very important. Are they worn through? Are they leaking? You know, that's the kind of stuff you want to check, right? So I got a rub protector right there because it was rubbing through, right? Those are things you want to keep in mind, okay? Then you got the carriage. Is there any cracks and stuff? I got a crack right here. All it is this piece of metal and this. It's cracked right there, but I'll weld that up sooner or later. One thing you want to do is, when you're looking at dump trucks, it's preferred to get a double frame. See how it's doubled? That's the frame, it's doubled. That's what you want, okay? Because it's stronger, more robust for off-road and everything. My double frame doesn't go all the way to the front though, right? It just goes to right there on both sides. So it pretty much goes to just the drop axle. You can see where it ends, right? You want to check your brakes. You want to check, you know, check these little nuts right here. See if they're loose. Shake the drive line. You know, if there's play in the drive line, then you got bad U-joints. You know, bring a pry bar with you, like a big pry bar, because you don't have the strength to move some of the stuff to see what the play is in it. Like, stick one in between there and shake it, you know. Stick it in the tire and for the drop axle and pry it up, and you can see if there's play in the kingpin. This is the kingpin right here, this thing. You know, try and push the drop axle both ways, you know, to see how the shocks react, you know. Just wiggle everything. Wiggle the, you know, the tie rod, you know, to see if the tie rod ends are any good. You know, if it's really loose, then they're garbage. You know, check your leaf springs, make sure they're not worn out, you know, look everywhere. You know, look at your hinge pins. These are one of the major things on dump trucks that people don't take the time to inspect very good. Like, there are no broken welds or cracks on there. If there is excessive weld buildup, it's because it's been cracking and they're having a hard time keeping it from cracking, which means there's probably like a twist in the frame, or you know, there's some sort of unwanted tension or pressure. See how it's a little shiny right there? That's from driving with the box up and setting it down while you're driving, because it wiggles. So if that's really rounded, you can tell it's not rounded on mine. But if it's really rounded, it's gonna be a lot sloppier, right? So that's just something to think of. Look at, okay, here's one thing that you need to pay attention to. Has the truck been greased? Like, have they been doing their regular greasing, right? If it doesn't look damp like that, see how it's kind of darker, it's kind of damp looking? They have not been greasing it. They're full of crap. If they say they've been greasing it, if it doesn't look damp like that, they're full of crap. They have not been greasing it. Okay? See how that looks kind of crusty? I haven't greased it in a while. Right here, this is what I'm talking about. This one got greased. You can tell it's kind of darker, right? What you don't is you don't want to buy a truck that hasn't been greased, and you go to grease, and when you shake it, you feel it feels stiff, right? And then you get home and you grease it, and then it's like a loose goose, and you're like, what the flip? And that's even if you can get the grease in it. I don't know how many Zerks on this thing that nobody greased, so I ended up taking the Zerk fitting off, grinding out the old crappy dried up grease, the dust and all the gunk that was in there, and then re-putting the Zerk fitting back on and pumping new grease into there. I mean, that's something that that's one thing you want to look for, in my opinion, personally. It hasn't been greased regularly. And one of the things you're gonna get a lot of times with this particular truck, they greased the top of the kingpins on the steer axle. They didn't even think about the bottom one. They didn't touch the bottom ones at all. Lazy people. They didn't grease the bottom of it. I go to grease it. I couldn't grease this front steer axle, this side, for probably a month. Like, I tried to pump grease in there, nothing. I had to take the fitting off, grind out the stuff, pump stuff in there, wait another, 2 days, pump more in there, until it finally worked its way up and out. But they hadn't greased it in so long that the grease wasn't going in, right? It was kind of almost like the old grease was seized in there. Like, it was not grease, it was like just dust. What's up?
Talking about your kingpin?
No, I'm just doing a video about what to look for when you're buying a dump truck.
I thought you were talking about how you can get grease. There's a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put your oil in, stick it on the Zerk, smack it with the hammer, and blow all the dirt out and grease it. It's $40.
Okay.
Well worth it.
There you go, guys. There's a tool you can use, apparently, where you put gear oil in there and smack it and it blows the dirt out. I didn't even know that. Another thing you want to look for, and if the truck doesn't have brand new tires, there's a lot of types of tread wear patterns. Go on the internet and look up tread wear patterns on like semis, right? Before you go look at the truck, go look at that, right? And like, for example, I don't know if you guys can tell, probably can't tell, this side is wearing a little bit faster than this side, right? That's because it's towed in a little bit, so this side gets rubbed off first, right? Plus the drop axle is a little angled this way. So that's one thing. If you have a really funky tread pattern wear, like just look at this lug, right? If the lug is like angled this way, like the front of it is gone and the back is built up, it's got a weird alignment problem, or maybe it wasn't aired up properly, or it was not you know, there's so much. You need to look at that online. Go and look up tread wear patterns for tires. That will tell you so much about the condition of the drivetrain and everything on a dump truck, right? Another thing you want to look for on a dump truck, test these out. Are they solid? Did the asphalt gates work? Okay, another thing you want to look at, see the box, see the bed, see how it's all dented like that? You do not want a dented bed because stuff sticks in it easier, right? I'm probably getting pretty close to having to redo the floor in this thing. You see that metal right there? See how it's kind of poking up? Well, that's a support right there. And what happens is the dirt slides down, and that, because it's up higher, it doesn't want to slide out as easy, right? I don't have any problems sliding it out, but it's just something to think about for the future, you know. Make sure this thing isn't all dented up. You don't want that hitting anything. You know, just check the functionality of everything. Check all the lights. Bring a buddy with you. Bring a buddy with you, or a mechanic friend, somebody who, you know, has good attention to detail. That's what you want. Somebody who's attention to detail. And a lot of times you'll have that one friend who says he's a mechanic and he talks everything, and then when you get there, then he's silent. Don't bring that guy with you. Bring the guy that's gonna look you in the eye and say, dude, don't waste your money on that. That thing needs more than what you want to do. You know, somebody's gonna give you an honest opinion, you know. So yeah, driving down the road, does it vibrate? You know, look at, you know, the lug nuts, look at the bolts, are they loose? You know, just look at everything. Look at everything over, you know. Of course, it's not going to be 100%. It's a dump truck, okay? These things get beat. Man, these things are work trucks. All the other trucks are not work trucks. They're road princesses. These trucks get worked. So, another thing you can check is, like, your air system is very important in a dump truck, right? So when it blows out air, is it blowing out oil and stuff? When you drain the air tanks, what is the fluid? What, a lot of times there's liquid in there, moisture. What does it look like when it's coming out? Just keep in mind that's what's going through your brakes. You know, check. Just basically do a pre-trip on the whole thing, you know, and know that when you buy a used truck, yeah, that's okay, they're haters, I don't give a crap. Let me shut this off. Just know that when you are buying a used truck. Alright guys, I'm gonna let you go. Don't forget to pound that like button, and I'll catch you guys later. If you have any other questions, leave it in the comments. I'll get to it on when I can.